Let me take y'all back to 1992. Now, when most of us gamers hear the year 1992, we're probably thinking about an open-world game from 2004. But back in that faithful year of grunge rock and gangsta rap, the gaming world was introduced to Super Mario Kart. The very first mainstream kart racing game, and a title that would spawn a massive litany of copycats for years to come. Diddy Kong Racing, Looney Tunes Racing, Eminem's Kart Racing, racially insensitive kart racing, you name it. There were many of these kinds of games, but in my opinion, only one title has truly outmatched the magic of Mario Kart: Crash Team Racing. If you were a PlayStation gamer in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a good chance that CTR was your first kart racer. It was for me, and even stripping away my nostalgia bias, I find it hard to find a better kart racer out there. I've played many a Mario Kart game and their namiety of clones, but none of them reach the sheer quality of CTR in my honest opinion. And clearly, many feel the same way, as this game got the remake treatment in 2019 with Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, which I'll briefly touch on later. But first, let's get into a bit of history. In the late 90s, Crash Bandicoot had established itself as the unofficial mascot series for the PlayStation. Around the same time Crash 3 was starting production, Naughty Dog was working on a kart racing game engine. This caught the interest of Sony and Universal Interactive, and a Crash Bandicoot-themed kart racer was approved. The game was developed in a mere 8 months on a budget of $2.5 million. You see, this is back when making a game in a year was actually feasible, and no one was expecting Pixar-level visuals yet either, which kept budgets low. If only things had never changed. Unlike other kart racers of the time, and even more recent efforts in the genre, CTR actually has a story. Granted, it's a pretty bare-bones story, but an interesting addition nonetheless. An extraterrestrial being by the name of Nitrous Oxide has invaded Earth and challenged the inhabitants to beat him in a race. If the Earthlings lose, the planet will be turned into a concrete parking lot. Yeah, like the planet hasn't already been turned into one already. The game clearly doesn't take itself too seriously regarding the plot, as it's merely an excuse to have Crash Bandicoot characters racing each other. Another thing that separates it from its peers is the semi-open world adventure mode. We have a series of hub worlds featuring portals to various tracks, very similar to what Spyro does. Each hub world features around 5 or so tracks, and concludes with a penultimate boss battle race. This is a minor thing, but when traversing between hub worlds, the instrumentation and the music will change seamlessly to fit the hub world's aesthetic. Honestly, that's pretty damn impressive for a PS1 game, and a bit of a spiritual precursor to what we'd see in games such as Doom 2016 or Metal Gear Rising. The hub worlds themselves are all fantastic, and ditto for the levels within them. Honestly, I find it hard to pinpoint a single bad track. They are all great in my view. My personal faves would probably be Oxide Station, Engine Labs, Crash Cove, Cortex Castle, and Papu's Pyramid. All fantastic levels with great design and aesthetics. By extension, we have some multiplayer arenas, which hold relic challenges in adventure mode. To be upfront and honest, these challenges suck. You are given barely enough time to collect all the gems in one run, so prepare to fail a lot. These honestly are just filler levels that should have been relegated to being multiplayer exclusive. In that regard, they are quite fun, but I can't demonstrate the multiplayer mode at the moment. But if you do have a friend to play it with, I'd recommend giving it a shot. One big issue I do have with adventure mode is that in order to get the true ending, you have to complete the game 100%. This isn't the only Crash game to do so, but regardless, I find that to be a dick move on part of the developers, and something that's aged very poorly. Could be worse. If this game was released by EA, you'd have to hand over $15 just to see the real ending. We start off with 8 characters to choose from, all of them with different performance stats, with the more balanced characters such as Crash, and characters like Dingo Dial featuring a tendency to understeer. Beating various cups in adventure mode will unlock additional characters. But if you're lazy, you can cheat to unlock all the characters from the start without even having to touch adventure mode. Speaking of cheats, here's one you can do without feeling guilty. If you input this button combination on the main menu, you'll be greeted to a Spyro 2 demo. You know, I really miss when games had demos for other games in them. The Matt Hoffman demo in THPS 2 actually inspired me to go out and buy that game as a kid. This was a clever marketing strategy that just makes me long for the good old days. But I digress. CTR controls like a dream with the right characters. The game features a heavy focus on power slides and boost. The best way to describe it would be easy to pick up, but difficult to master. Those who are skilled enough can utilize shortcuts to secure a first place victory. I'm merely intermediate to be honest, but I still get a kick out of the gameplay in CTR. It's probably the best of its entire genre. For more casual players out there, you're in luck, since almost every track is unlocked by default in the single race and time trial modes. Even though the PS1 lagged behind the N64 in terms of couch multiplayer, if you did have the PS1 multi-tap, you could play this game with 3 other players. I never had that accessory, so I'd usually just play with my older siblings as a kid. There were even a few times I managed to get my mom to play with me, and it went down about as well as you think. Whether it's multiplayer or single player you're looking for, Crash Team Racing is the definitive, okay, maybe after last year's remaster blunder we should really stop using that word. Crash Team Racing is the ultimate PS1 kart racer, and arguably the best of its entire generation. And I know I'm not alone in thinking that. It's no wonder that 20 years later, CTR got the remake treatment. Enter Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled. It was the mid to late 2010s, and remakes of our favorite platformers were giving the gaming world a much needed shot in the arm. I'm honestly starting to become a bit nostalgic for those days, even if it was only a couple years ago, because the 2020s so far have been to gaming what the 2010s were for music. And even back then, these remakes felt like a breath of fresh air after years of brown and gray shooters suffocating us gamers with their big fat stinking asses. Finally, colorful platformers were back and ready to kick some tail. And with that, Crash Team Racing and Nitro Kart got mixed into a blender and given a shiny new coat of paint with a buttload of extra features. Now this is the ultimate kart racer of the modern era. Whether you're an old school player who wants to relive the glory days in HD, or a newcomer who wants some online multiplayer action, Nitro Fueled is a must-own. We've got tracks and characters from Nitro Kart, some great new customization, and even a bone for us Spyro fans. God, I love this game. Nitro Fueled is an almost perfect kart racer. Why did I say almost perfect? Well, sadly, this game has some microtransactions. Now, it's nowhere near as bad as Gran Turismo 7 or Diablo Immortal's pure evil, but still something I can't support in a full-price game. But that minor flaw doesn't change the fact that Nitro Fueled is one of the best kart racers of all time. Hell, one of the best racing games in general. They're definitely in my top 5. But if you have to choose just one, I'd say get Nitro Fueled. It's got the most content and better visuals, and overall it's the better package even if the microtransactions do suck a bit. And plus it's got online multiplayer. What more could you ask for? So yeah, who would have thought that Crash Bandicoot would give us the best kart racer ever when it was new? Back in the 90s, this butt-ugly monstrosity was considered the apex of the genre. And here we are 2 decades later, with the orange marsupial now being the king of the kart racing genre. Just a shame that it's now in the hands of one of the worst gaming companies of all time.